All right, everyone. So as promised, I was going to jump on here and basically talk a little bit about the Haytham Kenway V2 right arm hidden blade that I posted very recently. A lot of you had a lot of questions, mainly in regards to the sliding lid function on the top. I just kind of want to explain why I had to do what I did with this design. So I'll pop it up on the screen, but you can kind of see behind me in the background here, the actual lid on the Haytham Kenway blade extends out extremely far. So it pretty much comes out all the way to the length of the first tier of the blade. You could even argue that it is the first tier of the blade. I'm gonna experiment with a design where it's mounted to that part, but for this one, I wanted to do an independent structure. So as many of you know, I obviously did the Altair blade, where this one also features a sliding lid function. So as you can see, it comes in and it comes out, very similar to the Haytham Kenway. But the reason I couldn't use this design was because it only extends out 2.5 centimeters roughly. So you can see it only comes out this far, which is nowhere near enough the length that the one on the Haytham Kenway needed to come out, going off of those reference images that we have. So I first had to figure out how to make the lid extend further, but then I also had to consider some of you, because a lot of you are really naughty, and I've seen in the videos you've put up of this, you activating the Altair blade using the lid. So you've been pushing the lid like this to activate the blade rather than pulling the string. It wasn't intended to do that, but you can, and you can get away with it with this design. But for something like the Haytham Kenway, where the lid essentially has to have a linear multiplier to come out so far, you would create too much torque if you were to push the lid rather than using the intended string, and that would damage the very sensitive internal components in there. So I had to come up with a system that allowed me to protect those very delicate little parts in there while still allowing the lid to move a great distance in and out. So this is what I came up with, a safety breakaway system. So you can see when you use the blade, obviously the lid moves as intended. You can see it comes out basically as the first tier, just like in the concept art. But then, if you were to be like some of you have been and try and activate the blade using the lid, what do you think is gonna happen? Boom, absolutely nothing, which is perfect. So unlike the Altair where you can activate it that way, this one has my safety breakaway feature where it will just disconnect and it will be kind of free floating. And then as soon as you put the lid back to where it's supposed to be, it will automatically reconnect and lock back in again. So that way it protects that very sensitive mechanism in there and prevents any reverse loading of those components and stops them from breaking.